Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Disciple Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Thanks for your time.
Of course, Joe. How you been, man?
Oh, pretty good. Why do you like working with MSPs?
Oh, that's a great question. I think really what it comes down to in the end is, most MSP owners are trying to do so much with so little. And if you can give even just one tidbit of advice that helps them succeed, it's rewarding. They come back to you, it establishes a relationship, you build rapport with people, and they trust you, I think in the MSP space, unlike maybe some of the other verticals that are out there, you really have the ability to help a business owner with just a little bit of information sometimes.
Yeah, it's really true. We first got to know each other when you were at ConnectWise.
Yeah.
And of course, we're working with a lot of MSPs there. Now you're with IT by Design. We're here at RoarCon, by the way. We're on the 20-yard line, Joe.
Love it.
And of the Dallas Cowboys campus, World Headquarters, it's an indoor facility. Somebody said this holds like 8,000 people, this place.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's impressive, isn't it?
It's like 8 high schools play here. It's air conditioned. The acoustics are incredible. And Lion Guard has their first event here, RoarCon, having a great time. Yeah. You're here with IT by Design. What's your goal at this event?
Well, first of all, great show so far. First time launching a show is always difficult, and I think Lion Guard's done a wonderful job with that. As you mentioned, the facility's just amazing. Yeah. As you may remember with my background, this is kind of my stomping grounds, right? Little turf, little locker room.
Yeah, that's right.
Right up my alley.
Yeah.
I think, what my goal here really is to help people understand that, look, I'm a team guy, right? I come from the team sports space.
Yes.
I'm here to help people build teams, whether it's supplementing the team you already have or building out an entire second team. That's sort of our bread and butter. And if we can help somebody build an effective winning team, that's what we're here to do.
Baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a baseball player. I remember now.
Yep.
And you were an infielder?
I was originally drafted as a second baseman out of school. I played a little bit of everything in my pro career, but I started in the infield.
So here's the thing, I play a little second baseman too. And so I know, one man out, goes to right field, where to go. But the shift, man, did you play when they had shift?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We used to make people actually learn to hit.
That's incredible. Because now in defense, if you're second, all of a sudden you can become like the shortstop for a left-handed batter, right? Now you have 3 people over there, and your positioning gets all messed up. Now they stopped it in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
You know what? I kind of had an issue with that.
Yeah.
Especially when you think back about the history of the game, right? The shortstop didn't used to be in the infield in the first place. People don't really know that. It was a short outfielder, shortstop. So the evolution of where people play and how the game is predicated based on the game itself, right? And I think not allowing the shift sort of manipulates that a little bit. Now, right or wrong, that's a different argument, right? But for me, I was always under the impression, look, if you didn't have the talent to hit it the other way, then you deserved to get a shift. And on the flip side of that same coin, if you were good enough to shove it down the shift's throat just because you could anyways, well, then you deserve to.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental question, right? I think in the overall impact of the game, what really matters is what do the fans think? I think most of the time, in business, you make data-driven decisions, right? So what's the data say?
Right,
Do the fans like it or not? If the fans like it, then it was the right move for the game. I don't know that. That's outside of my wheelhouse.
How about the game shortening? 15 seconds for the pitcher, the batter has got 15. Do you like all this stuff?
Well, me personally, no. But I grew up on the subtleties of the game, the mental game. I don't really go to baseball games too much anymore, except for when my friends invite me to come and be there in person. And quite frankly, most of the time we end up talking about what's really going on in the field. Like, watch what these guys are doing. Most people watch the pitcher, they watch the hitter, but the largest portion of the game's going on everywhere else.
Yeah.
And so that little insight, the little tips of understanding what's going on is what I do enjoy about the game. And I think that some of the speed up rules have lost that subtlety. But, again, if I'm honest, data-driven decisions, right? In the society we're in, shortened games keeps attention span, it keeps the viewership. And let's face it, you got to have viewership in order to make that work. It's still entertainment, no matter how you cut it.
We actually had an all-star game under like 2.5 hours. I think it's the first time.
Crazy,
ever.
right?
Yeah, which was nice.
Yeah, and so the impact is beneficial. Again, do the fans like it? I think so. I think it's helped with attendance. I don't know the numbers on that, so I can't speak intelligently on what the actual results are, but it seems like it's working.
What's happened to bunting? It's just gone.
It is a lost art form. It was even when I played. I was a speed guy, so bunting was a big part of my game. Not just like sacrifice bunting, but actually bunting for hits. Oh yeah. A matter of fact, it's funny, I was a switch hitter growing up, and I stopped switch hitting later in my career because one, I had decent success left on left, which is sort of the big struggle anyways. But the other thing is it gave me the ability to drag bunt. So when that left-handed pitcher falls off the mound to the right, and I pull the bunt to the right side, he can't get to it. So now the first and second baseman have to make a decision. And if they make the wrong decision, I'm safe every time.
Yeah, you are. Because the catcher's out, and the pitcher's already committed. Yeah. I played for first for a while. We always, first baseman went, and that second baseman better get over. So you dragged it on that side.
Yeah, because if that second baseman even hesitates.
That's right. He won't make it.
Nope.
Yeah, especially with a speedy runner. Yeah, it's such a nuanced sport. It's so wonderful. I remember one time I was playing second, and I was trying to turn to double play, and I got taken.
Yep.
And I hit my head, and I was out for a good minute or so, and part of the game as well.
It's funny you say that. When I first got called up to Double-A with the Indians, I was turning a double play, and Adam Heisdu, who was with the Pirates at the time, came in and kind of took me out a little bit. Hurt my knee, and actually was the first major injury of my career.
Whoa.
I went on a long rehab stint because of it. I had to go through that whole process. And the oddity of it was Adam and I became sort of social media kind of social friends later in life and talked about it. We actually were short teammates for just a little bit as well. And so it was one of those things is like, here's this guy who kind of had a really big impact on my career, but had no clue about it, right? It was just a normal interaction for him as a runner. And then we later became friends, talked about it, understood it. And so just one of those weird life moments where something comes back around. It was kind of cool. I could have done without the injury part, don't get me wrong.
And the human element in these sports, to see how much talent there could have been without injuries.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. Both my parents are teachers, so they taught me from a very young age, look, no matter how good you are, your career is going to end. And if you're like so many, it will unfortunately end sooner than you anticipate. Oftentimes through injury, maybe through lack of skill, but no matter what, it's probably going to end sooner than you want, and you better be prepared. So I leveraged my athletic ability to go to college and do the things that I wanted to do on that front. And then once my professional career presented itself, you can put that on the side. It's still there. I got my education. I can go back to it. But I really could put in that time and the dedication to professional athletics that it takes.
Baseball is full of such beautiful nuance, where to go, positioning is all data driven, and what the games that are playing, even, looking back at first base, if you're going to steal, and the catchers, the general, they see everything.
Oh yeah.
What's happened to the pitch out too, by the way?
I think some of that has to do with the way the game's changed on base stealing, which comes from the Moneyball concept, right? I think Moneyball was one of those extreme data-driven type of scenarios, and it's one of those areas where I think the data overruled the translation, which we can do as business owners, right? Even as an MSP owner, we have this data and we go to it, but maybe we interpret it a little wrong. Or we overemphasize what it tells us. Instead of it being an indication, we use it as the Bible, right? And so I think one of the best parts about my background being in baseball is the fact that I understand the data, the subtlety of the data, that it needs to not just be there, but it needs to be interpreted correctly. One of the things that I blew a coworker of mine with was one single change to your swing takes 1,500 swings in practice before you're ready to take it into a game.
Wow.
And then it still takes about 100 at bats while trying to make that change in a game situation before you can actually say, that is part of my swing now. So subtle changes over time make huge results, but you got to make sure you're making the right changes.
Yeah, the whole, paralysis by analysis, you have to be careful of overthinking. So how can we get the nuances, Joe, in baseball and how to be a team and how to win and bring that over to the MSP? I think sometimes there's some rash decisions that happens. A lot of times the tech-led MSPs suffer in sales and in marketing because that's not their strength. Right. But there's some parallels we can bring across to help MSPs there, can't we?
Yeah, I think there's a ton of them, quite frankly, and we could probably talk for hours on different areas of it. I think one of the things you got to do is really understand, just like baseball, the speciality of it, right? You have a closer, they're dealing with a bullpen type of scenario. So when you're going to use and utilize the bullpen in itself, it has sort of a governance around it. As a hitter, I don't really know what's going on in the bullpen during the game, right? But it absolutely is a predication of how the outcome is going to be and whether we win or not. And so I have to be able to be part of the team, be there for the team, but understand that that's their expertise. And I got to trust what they're doing is right and just support them in whatever way that I can. But I got to focus in on the things that I can make a change on, right? In this case for me, building teams and sales is what I can make a change on. Even at ITBD, I think anybody, if they're really honest with themselves, can look inside and say, yeah, we need to make some changes still. No matter how good you are, you can always improve. And even at IT by Design, we can get better, right? But I got to focus on what can I do to help my sales team be successful, which ultimately means I got to focus on what our clients' need is and make sure that I'm fulfilling that need, because it's an outcome that we're really selling. I'm not selling the idea of global talent. I'm not selling the idea of a software to manage your people. What I'm really getting the point across about is you need this outcome. You're not getting that outcome today, and here's how I can help.
Yeah, sometimes when I help some MSPs, especially in marketing, they want to talk about features, Joe. Don't care about features. Let's just talk about value.
Right. Exactly.
As technicians, they say, well, it does this report and it prints it. I said, no, what does it look further than that? The value is what drives it. So when I talk to MSPs, three things keep them up at night. Security.
Yes.
Human capital. If my engineers leave, who am I going to replace? What kind of talent am I going to get? And then, of course, growth. You and your firm help in that second category.
Yeah, and by helping in the second category, we also really help in the third.
And in the growth and in the third as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. First one is its own beast, right?
Yeah.
Got to tackle it for sure.
Yes.
But when it comes to your own talent, I think one of the things we talk about is no matter what we do as an MSP, when you really break it down at the end of the day, you have an RMM, a PSA, you probably have some platform to manage your backups, and these are large-scale platforms to handle your assets or the things that you're dealing with. But a lot of MSPs need to take a step back and realize their most valuable asset is the people around them, the people that have working for them. And so that's actually why we came up with the Team GPS software that we have now, right? The idea of it is it is a human capital management platform, right? It's meant to really be able to gauge where is your employee's mind at. How do you help make sure that they're doing the best work that they can do and you're giving them the resources they need to do it? And how satisfied or how happy are they working with you so that you can retain them? Because let's face it, if I can make a couple of changes to any one of my employees day to day and save them from leaving, that infinitely is better for my business and for my bottom line than hiring somebody else and having to train them up. So that whole system with Team GPS is predicated on the idea of your people are your most valuable asset, and what are you using to manage them today?
What's your largest challenge, Joe, in working with MSPs?
Well, I think no matter how you cut it, you can't beat around the bush. The idea of global talent is still difficult for some, right? And I think that as an MSP owner, most of them get the value there, right?
Define global talent, excuse me.
Sure. We talk about as global talent, borderless talent. We stay away from sort of the old school outsourced idea.
Right.
And the reason for it is we fundamentally do it a little bit differently. When you hire a dedicated resource through IT by design, they're actually your employee at the MSP as well, right? They are part of your team, they're part of your huddles, they do your team activities, whether they're team building exercises or actual work. They are part of that MSP's core personnel. They just happen to also work in our office, and we have sort of the overlay, the HR, the management piece there to make sure that the outcomes the MSP are looking for are attained. But ultimately, it is that integration of those people. I think in the grand scheme of things, it's a little bit difficult to get over that hump because even an MSP owner still has to understand what is his end client's propensity and acceptance of that. Outsource is a bad word in America. It really is.
Right.
But
Because you're
70,
taking the perception.
yeah.
If we still man it, you're taking away American jobs, and there's that perception.
Absolutely, right? I mean, 70% of businesses in America are outsourcing today.
Right.
So it's not that it doesn't happen, and it's not that it isn't even a requirement almost in order to be extremely successful. I think the concept that I like to kind of share with people when they have that difficulty of getting over the idea of, well, I'm taking an American job and moving it overseas. Instead, I like to look at it is look at the overall impact of that business. How many American jobs are tied to the success of that business? And if we can outsource one or two of them to a global talent, and that makes you more profitable, that increases your ability to do more within the country, isn't that little bit of the pie that's going over there benefiting the part of the pie that's still here in the States?
Interesting.
And so it really just comes down to business function, right? Is if I can create something that is as successful as possible, and I use a little bit from column A and a lot from column B succeeds because I have a little bit in column A.
Is AI going to help in global talent?
So the answer is absolutely yes. And is AI going to hurt in global talent? And the answer is absolutely yes.
How's it going to hurt?
I don't know yet, and that's the beauty of it and the scary part of it, right? I think Pax8 did a wonderful job of really bringing about the idea of, hey, look, AI is going to change the way business is done globally, and it's absolutely going to change the way MSPs do their business. There's going to be an increase in good, but there's also going to be an increase in bad. As the bad actors get control of AI, they're able to do more with it as well. And so it's that eternal struggle when it comes to the security part, back to one. We get better tools to defense it, but the bad actors get those same better tools, and what can they do with it? And so it's that constant battle. It will always be there. There will never be just this is the answer and we're secure now. And that kind of a daunting or even frustrating outlook, but it's the truth, right? It's why MSPs will effectively always be part, or at least tied to, the security of their end clients moving forward.
What's your message to MSPs here at this event, Joe?
I think for us, it really just comes down to people, right? Teams, I'm a team guy, as I mentioned before, right? So for me, it's really about how can I help your team be more successful? And sometimes it's a single placement, sometimes it's an entire team. We have a build and operate offshoring model that we can do for the larger scales. We have NOC services, et cetera. And so for me, it's really understand what our services are and how they can impact your business. And if you think there's a chance that might be beneficial, let's have a conversation.
Joe, I always love, how long have we known each other? You were connected-wise, 10 years I know?
I think it's more like 12 even, but it's been quite a while. Yeah, I think I joined ConnectWise, I think in 2010 maybe.
Wow.
And I think you and I met that first year I was
my
there.
Account manager?
I was originally. That was way back when, before I kind of got moved around within ConnectWise.
Wow. Yeah, because I sold my MSP in 2019. But were you still there then?
I was in 2019 still.
Yeah.
I was in a different role at that point. I had been fortunate enough to move up to the account director role. So I was dealing with about 50 of ConnectWise's 200 largest clients.
Wow.
And that was a unique experience because I really got to see a different side of the MSP space, right? So much of my career in the beginning was dealing with the smaller MSPs, people that were wearing multiple hats every day, all the time. And then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, I got a perspective of, hey, we have really mature and defined processes for everything. And there's a clear delineation between this is sales, this is service delivery, this is onboarding, that kind of stuff. And you really get a very different business experience out of that. And the great part for me was that I was able to take some of those things from the really mature and share some of the tidbits that would be translatable to the smaller MSPs, cutting out some of the stuff that obviously economy of scales make it easy for the big guys to do that the small guys can't. And again, it's really rewarding when you can give somebody a little bit of information that helps their business,
Joe, thanks so much for your time. I always like seeing you. You're such an important part of this community, and that smile is always welcoming.
I appreciate it, Joe. Always a pleasure to see you as well. So thanks for having me, friend.
Be well.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Disciple Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Disciple Conversations.